Well, I'm very surprised so many people. Well, welcome everybody. I'm very honored, I feel very honored to speak for you, to be this week together with you and also with the companies, to give to do my best to give you some impression of my knowledge and experience, and especially I think that the topic is important for everyone. I'm going a little bit this way so I can also see some of my slides. I go quickly through the slides because I understand that I have 30 minutes, the maximum of 40 minutes, and I don't know if I can do that all, but okay, otherwise I just skip some of my slides. Well, you know the title, and let me first start with some slides which has a lot of text, and I don't like that in a presentation, so I hope I also will come up with a number of visualizations, cases, etc. First of all, here is the Netherlands. You know where the Netherlands is. It's a very small, very tiny country. I don't go into that deeper today. If you want to know something about the Netherlands, just ask me afterwards. So let's say in the nowadays very international market, globalization. Well, we live in that already for many years. Enterprises has to become faster, faster in change. New products, new services. Think about delivering innovations in the market. That is very important nowadays. And in that area, design as such becomes a more important tool. And governments are trying to also to support that, especially when I talk about Europe. There is from the European Commission from 2009 statements about design. They see design as a strategic tool for economic progress, improved competitiveness, job creation. It looks like it is good for everything. But at least the increased use of design by companies is stimulated. There is also an increased export of design. Well, you also know everything about the creative industry. Also here in Brazil, we have the same kind of actions. And also it is about improved design education and research. And I think that tonight we also will speak about this education and research, because that is important. Also what we understand by design and design education. There are many studies now already done about the effect of and the role of design for companies, and it shows that indeed, let's say, studies in the UK, in France, in the Netherlands, that companies who invest in design have a higher profits and less failures. And also a design policy strategy at ministerial level is, well, when we look at Europe, but also Korea, only in Finland, Denmark, Netherlands and South Korea we have kind of supported policies on design. It shows that companies that work with design or as a process, and especially the one who are higher on the design ladder, I come back to that later on, they are 5 times as likely to develop new products as compared to companies that do not work consciously with design. Well, the benefits, according to the companies themselves, if you look at the research on that, let's say, the first thing is that they strengthen the brand and the company image. I think that is an important one. I come back to that. And also the real tough studies based on cost-benefit analysis shows that design has a major impact on sales and new market entry as well as on profit. Okay, and you see that in the different countries again when I talk about Europe. Okay, I can go on and go on with the proofs. Maybe I don't need to prove it to you that design has an important influence on that. So what I would like to stress tonight is that, let's say, if we talk about design and about innovation and about the relation between the two, I would like to stress the brand-driven innovation. So, and what does that mean, actually? So, as we know, organizations constantly are developing new products, new services, and to keep up with the changing markets. And they try that to, let's say, to create value, new value to users, customers. They have to have a keen understanding of what they are good at. They also have to try to find the sweet spot to satisfy change, and that is what I call brand. And it is not just about emotion. I mean, nowadays it's quite popular to talk about emotion and design. I'm not such a believer in that. I think it is more about, do the company has a vision, what are the values of the company, and what are their norms. And I think that is what I'm trying to stress to you tonight. Brand as a symbol is not a logo as such, and it is also not only a matter of the marketing department. When I talk about the brand, it has much more to say about it. It is the way we do business. It's also the way we treat and hire employees, your employees. And it is also about the way you deal with the environment and the social issues, sustainability aspects, etc. The way you develop products and services, and that also, finally, the way you also sell your products through retail. And that all has to do with your vision. You have to develop, as a company, you have to develop a vision on and strategy on what you want and what you are good at, and how your attitude, your culture is. The culture of a company is very important. Well, something before. So, well, words as innovation and design are kind of buzzwords, and I have always difficulty with that. Let's try to keep it simple, and I think the most important, that innovation is the most important source of competitive advantage in advanced economies. And the purpose of innovation is to enhance the continuity. That's the most important thing, to enhance the continuity of the company, increasing long-term turnover and profit. I like this overview, where you can see that innovation over the years is changing. Let's say when we talk about the 80s, mostly it was about product focus, production focus, so to say, production focus, and also about quality. Quality was, let's say, the criterion for innovation. And when you see that over the years, it's just moves into direction from cost to delivery to customer first. You also see the literature about that. For those, the academic people, you see the literature, the books about those aspects. And that changes. And it changes nowadays into experience. Experience is the big word, maybe a new buzzword. But at least when we want to add something to the existing, if we know that, let's say, technology is open for everyone, for every company, then how do we make distinctions with other companies? And that is actually to give the customer, the user, a kind of experience. And all the time, let's say, design played a role, but let's say the role of design nowadays is much bigger than it was in the past. And you see also in the experience, it's about user focus. It is about taking into account the cultural and social context. The value, again, we come back to that, the value added by that, and let's say also to differentiate from your competitors. So, and then design. Well, by its nature, design consists of a number of different disciplines. And I like to repeat that because, let's say, there are many different definitions of design, but design as we think it is, it has, let's say, it is the connection between very many different disciplines. And the disciplines, well, you can mention them. It's about the technology. It's about the humanity, the user side, let's say the social side, and it's also about the business side. And all these aspects, and well, within the user, in the human aspect, you find this economics aspect. So, and the skill of design is to integrate those different disciplines into one solution. And that is a hell of a job, actually, but it is, let's say, that is what the designer adds compared to the engineer, the businessman or woman, or name whatever other discipline. And so the product works well, easy to manufacture, looks great, easy to use, occupies clear and open space in the market, it generates a decent margin. Well, that is actually where the designer is for. And let's say, while design in the past was more linked to art to art and to handcraft and that kind of things, let's say, I now think that it is more and more going into the direction of, well, engineering, business, and humanities combination. So what is the relation then? Let's say we see again on the right side these different disciplines within design, and on the left side innovation, which you can reach by technology, by well, your innovation in processes, innovation in organization, in customers, in markets, and on the other hand, as I say, combined, the two combined, we are looking at people, at products and services. So, as I already mentioned before, this is a quote from the former chairman of Sony. At Sony, we assume that all products of our competitors have basically the same technology, price, performance, and features. Design is the only thing that differentiates our one product from the other. And when you look at the, let's say, the development in design, also there you see a change. You see a change from the doing designer into the thinking and doing designer. From styled products, as we know from the past, it was only the cover, the package as such. Let's say it went into innovative products. Well, you can mention your own examples. And now, what I already said, it is more about emotion, experience, and also added to products is that companies more and more have to think about service. And that can be also not only, let's say, in physical ways, but also in kind of virtual ways, which becomes more and more important nowadays. Design thinking, I said already here, that well, we are talking now about the doing and thinking designer, and design thinking is nowadays also a trendy word. Well, you know it. I mean, you know it also from Tim Brown, for example, from IDEO, who wrote a book about it, who made it, let's say, accessible for the business, for the companies. And sometimes I'm afraid that it is now too much also a kind of trendy word without any content. And as you can see, it should have content, but it is too much. So, but okay, when we talk about design thinking, we are talking about these, let's say, integration of business, technology, user, and let's say, we make products and we do services. From a user point of view, it should be useful, usable, desirable, of course. From the business point of view, it should be marketable, profitable, innovative. And again, the technology viewpoint, which nowadays is maybe the least difficult one. Well, just a small example of a friend of mine who bought a few years ago a company which was making this kind of traditional child seat on the bicycles. Well, you know, perhaps in Holland we all have bikes. There are more bikes than people in Holland. We have, we have about 20 million bikes and 16 million inhabitants. And from those 20 million bikes, I think there are every year about 1 million, no, maybe it's too much, but something like about 800,000 are stolen. So there is a kind of, you know, dynamic use of the bike in Holland. Anyway, so and he bought this old-fashioned company in child seats. He brought in a design company, although he was himself a designer, and he changed that in this type of child seats. And well, he started this with his old company, old-fashioned company, as a very small, with a very small percentage of the market. He now is the market leader in the Netherlands, and he sells it to several parts in the world. So let's say what design can do, and this is a kind of simple example, but it works. And this is also an example of how he can present his products in the stores. He doesn't have their own stores, he just sells it through dealers. So, going back to this brand-driven innovation, and for that brand-driven innovation we need to follow some strategies. So you have, in the first place, it is about the human being, it is about user-focused design, and that is, let's say, also what the branding is about. And we have to do research for that, because otherwise we don't know what the user wants, what their needs are, or how the future user will react. Then we have, in the second place, this part of the strategy should be to build an innovation strategy. And I have already told you that for me means that you should develop a vision also for the future, in which those aspects as value, norms play an important role. And then we have go back. Three is still okay. 3, building a design strategy. When you have thought about in your vision about the user, the consumer, or the customer, or in a B2B world also about your clients, and you have made a kind of innovation strategy, then the next step is to build a design strategy. Because that is already from the beginning. I mean, it is not a separate kind of department within your company. It should be part of your total vision on where your company wants to go. And then, let's say, you have to think about the touch point or orchestration. And what are the touch points? I'd like to show you a small kind of presentation.
Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we
If you don't mind, because I'm the presenter and not the but you can find it on YouTube. I think it is very interesting and very, very worthwhile to take notice of that, because I think that this why question is often just forgotten or not posed. Yes. Okay. So I told you already something about the design ladder. And let's say here is how you can kind of categorize companies who somewhere are on this ladder. On the lowest level, where companies just deny the role of design, except that they say, okay, it makes our products nice, or we hire a designer at the end of the process when it should have a kind of packaging. Then, let's say, on the next step, we have this design as styling. And then, let's say, but still, that is not the role design should play. I think that the design should play a much more bigger role. And that is already in the companies where they have already reached this third step, where you can say, okay, we accept design as a process. We accept the methodology behind the design, as I showed you, let's say, where the integration of different disciplines, and where also design plays a role from the beginning of that process. I mean, even in many companies, design is only, let's say, is only involved in the process after, let's say, the engineers already have done the work. But that's not a good process. Let's say, companies on the third level, design as a process, they understand that you already have to involve the designer, because the designer is, as you can also see in what his or her abilities and skills are, is the mediator between the other disciplines, actually. And the fourth level is the highest level, where, let's say, the designer also is the kind of co-creator in your company, is thinking about the vision and the mission of your company. First of all, let's take some of these elements I have mentioned already: business, technology, and human being. So when we talk about nowadays about production, about manufacturing, especially when it is for consumers, then it should be human-centered. And that sounds so easy, but I know very many companies who don't know. I know academic colleagues from mechanical engineering, for example, who still don't understand why design and design engineering should exist, because they think that mechanical engineers do already all these things. I know architects who also think the same, because they are the fathers and mothers of design. But I can tell you, let's say, they don't understand the role the designer play, and also the difference in disciplines between the three. So, human-centered design. What is your target group? Look always to your target group. That is important. Cultural diversity, especially important. Not only if you look at differences in, let's say, in countries, in east and west of the world or whatever, but even within your own country, you see so many different cultural aspects, cultural diversity between the north and the south, or even, let's say, the culture of a special group, a religious group, or a motorcycle group, or whatever. I mean, they have their own cultures, and that is also an aspect you have to take into account if you talk about user-centered design. So usability can be a driver for innovation. Can be a driver for innovation if you indeed look at what people want and what they need. And it is not to say that you always need them for co-creation. I come back to that. So, for example, we did a project in Delft, not only in Delft but in the Netherlands, together with 3 universities and 4 companies. Philips was one. OC is a copier maker. Thales is also makes many products also for the military industry, and Indus was a design company. And we looked at the usability because the companies like Philips still get a lot of complaints about their products. And it is not so much about technical failure, but it's about what we call soft problems, soft usability problems. That is to say, you cannot say, okay, it is based on technology or techniques or whatever. No, people complain about because they don't understand how they have to do it. they miss some functions, they have too many functions. Well, it is about products, and in this case it was about electronic products, from a computer, mobile phone, to an iron, and to whatever, everything which is used in the household or whatever. And of course, you know this kind of simple process which is always sketched about how designing should be. Analysis, synthesis, simulation, implementation, decision. I can tell you I don't believe in this. Of course, those phases are important, but not in that kind of strict order. It is a kind of iteration in very, very strange ways how that goes. And let's say when you look at the users of the design, you can involve the users from the beginning again. Get information from the real world. That's important. You can use them for co-design. I'm not such a believer in co-design because I think that, let's say, they are not specialized enough to co-design with you. And I'm afraid that never comes out something new and innovative if you involve the user in your design process. I mean, as a co-designer. Anyway, I mean that is another maybe another discussion. And of course, at the end, you can simulate and you can also evaluate with your users what already happens. I want to say that we came also with 10 tips for user-centered product development. I go through it very quickly. What means usability to us? That is the first thing. We have to, as a company, you have to understand what means usability for our products related to our group, target group. Because nowadays it's not so simple anymore that we talk about a product and a user, but let's say there is a context of use. There are other people. You communicate with several products. So there are all kind of new relationships, and we have to take that into account. Why do we actually want this? Why do we want this? This kind of usability issue. Are we going to design another mobile phone, for example? Why? You have to ask yourself the question. Don't let designers just ride their hobby horse. Well, we know that they like to do that. So if you have design test, then let's go on. Say what has been proved to be good. That is also something. I mean, let's say in our continuous change, we sometimes forget that what we had was already okay. So innovate when it makes sense. I mean, why should we design the number 300 or maybe 500 a can opener? Or is it now a can opener? Is a corkscrew? We have to think about that, why we should do that, or should we look into other product lines. Implement understanding from user research and user testing. So let's say we have to know, we have to learn about our user, our consumer. Go into that a bit deeper than we normally do. Let designers learn, user tests, after sales feedback. Let them learn about what is going on. We give designers the rich information. Well, I don't need to tell that. And something, maybe that's a role for the university as well. And think concept and product. So let's say it's not about, if you have, let's say, designed concept, you have created concept, what does it mean for your final product? Design for consumers and user. That is so funny because, let's say, if you see the kind of adverts and the kind of brochures for some products, they're glossy, sleek, colorful, reader-friendly, sexy, compelling. So I buy the product and then I get the manual, and it looks like this: plain, dull, black and white, confusing, dry, boring, etc. So let's say we have to take that into account. So what is before and after? Before, the consumer thinks about functionality, results, aesthetics, brand, price, and the user thinks about the results, the reliability, the user friendliness. Also a kind of different expectation, not only, also a different perspective. And when you do research, I'm going over my time perhaps, okay? When you do research, I like this kind of overviews with different methods. So if it is about buying, think about the consumer demands, what, where, how, price. Where do you get the question? How? By getting your target group, law and standards, distribution. What kind of research are you doing? Well, market research. For example, if it is about pleasure, the consumer's demands has to do with physio, socio, psycho aspects, the IDEO aspects. What is the information you should get? It's about cultural differences, and how do you get that? By market and usability research. Well, let's say this is a kind of overview. You can even make it yourself, but it gives you a kind of help in thinking about these user demands. I'm now talking a bit about products, because that is also what we can learn something about the products, what it means, and let's say in terms of semiotics and semantics, what is it about products? Well, we can talk about market-driven design and also about author design. And let's say I don't want to talk now about the author design, because, well, it's nice and it is an inspiration for design, but it's just kind of unique kind of designs, almost art. But when we talk about market-driven design, we have to take into account the company vision, brand values, mass production, production requirements, etc., etc. These are all requirements when we talk about market-driven products and design. Well, just because I'm from the Netherlands, I just want you to say something about Dutch design, what our values are, because then, well, there were some questions about that already when I was here, and let me tell you something about that. So there is a focus on daily life first. Then it shows emotional intelligence. It links with our memories. Also an aspect of Dutch design. And maybe it's universal, but at least you see that in the products we make. It shows design thinking based on research and multidisciplinarity. This is a kind of innovative umbrella, very storm, how do you say that? It can resist storms of 10 whatever per quart, and it is a really innovation in the umbrella product. It is simple and complex with an eye for details. Well, just an old one. Well, before we had the euro, we had our own money, and our own money was beautiful. Like this, it was really good designed, but also very complex. It empowers in a positive way and fresh way the solutions of everyday life. And the photograph shows already the next thing. It has also some humor in it, and that is, I think, is important in design. That we also, let's say, in our products, we can show something to the consumer and say, hey, it gives a laugh and it is nice. Okay, that was something about design, but now, let's say, if we look at products in general and about the properties of and experiences of design, and we look for, I mean, this is just an example, but you can fill in your own example for in the middle. So what are the properties of design? First of all, it has a function, and maybe that is the most important one. You know, it extends or enhances our human physical action. That is one. But it brings some knowledge. It delivers knowledge to the user. that is a second aspect or property of design. Signification. It signifies if you buy an apple, or for example, then you like to belong to the community of apple owners. If you buy some clothes from some brand, again it signifies that you belong to that group, and sometimes that can also be a marketing instrument for your product. Aesthetics. It has aesthetics, of course. It induces emotion by its beauty of form. It also is mediating. It enables or enhances communication between people. And it's not only about the mobile phone or the smartphone. It is about every product. And it should have some sexuality. Let's say it arouses its users or others or both. And in that way, if you look at in that particular product, you can also make the difference with others. You can differentiate from your competitors. And of course, the product experience for the consumer is most important. But at the same time, you can communicate your brand experience. And of course, you should do that. You can do that. And let's say, when we talk about touch experience, you still can read it. It is more about, let's say, the adverts you see, the brochures you see in the newspapers or on TV ads or whatever. And finally, you can't see it, but what you should read is the potential experience. And that has to do something with what I was talking about, the vision on a company has. What do you expect, and what do the users expect from you in the future? Can you already predict perhaps what is going on? What are the trends in the market? What are the trends in society? What's going to happen? I think that is one of those important experiences. And for that you need design research. How long have I?
More 10 years.
10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, then I go shortly through that. So let's say when we talk about the design process, and it is a kind of ping pong, between first the strategy, the monitoring, ideas, inspiration, exploration, concept, evaluation, prototype, verification, product, etc., communication. Let's say in every phase you can talk about the research. Except maybe for the inspiration phase. But research is everywhere in all those phases, and I think it is important that you do that. The research in the beginning has also something to do with this vision. But then it comes about user research, and well, every phase has its own kind of type of research. And what you see actually, if you look at this overview, and the trends in research, in design, you see that there is a trend in that direction. Let's say from the human factors and economics, mostly physical economics in the past. We now go into kind of generative tooling, where it is not so much anymore about the physical aspects of the person in relation to the product, which of course is important, but let's say it is not rocket science anymore. Everyone knows, and then we can find the tables and etc., etc. But let's say we go into the direction where we talk about cultural probes you can use in your research as well, and generative tools in the sense that together with your consumers you are trying to find out what indeed will be their needs and their wishes, and what is the future for them. Okay. Case studies. I will not go through every of the case studies. Here I have a first case study was from Croatia, indeed. Just how we approach design. It was a case which came in our department to help the Croatian industry, or a number of companies. That was about 7 years ago, because they were, let's say, they wanted to compete with the Western market, and because of their socialistic system, they were way behind. So it was about the SMEs in Croatia. To raise the competitiveness of Croatian companies in the European market, to demonstrate best practice. That was what the project was about. To raise awareness among companies. I think that is one of the most important aspects of such projects. And to guarantee the sustainability of participating companies by applying strategic product innovation. So let's say it was a project, a collaboration project between Delft University Zagreb. There was a hub, was the organization in Croatia, and we had 3 companies. And let's say this was one of the companies. And we had one of our students, a graduation project, was a master graduation project. He was there. We gave some workshops and also came back and gave information to the company. It was a metal company, how do you call it? Mostly supplying parts to other companies, and they wanted their own products because they saw that they had difficulty in the market and wanted to become more independent from others. So, this was located in Split. Maybe it doesn't say you anything. It's on the seaside. Steel construction, galvanization, etc. The goal of the project is the strategy, customized one of products, small series products, etc. I told you already. I'll just show you also this, because this is the way we work. First, we do a kind of analysis of the company, external analysis, internal analysis, and the weaknesses, the strengths, SWOT analysis, of course. Then we are looking for search fields. What could be possible new lines of product lines for that company, given their production, given their equipment, machinery, etc. So, so there were 3 possible search lines. One is product for marinas, boat trailers. One was public space, and the third one was the waste disposal. It was a bit too general, so we went more deeply into all these 3 fields. So, as you can see, again, as an example, it was a deep analysis about what it means. If you look at public space, it is about waste disposals, advertising, playground, material, bus and train transport, etc., etc. So here this is waste disposal. Afterwards you can see, okay, is it interesting for the company? You can even make a kind of estimation, a kind of test, evaluation, to see what are the positive points and the negative points. You have everything of that. Products for marinas, also again, you can look at what kind of products there are. And finally, you can have a choice. Products for marinas fit the company best for the near future. I don't go into deeper into that. I just want to show you how we are working. So here, 3 possible directions were created: the wastewater regulations, boat moving equipment, or dry berth equipment. And finally, this project ended with a kind of trailer for boats. It was also a prototype of made, was shown on a fair, and I think the company was quite happy with that. Okay, so let's not go into that because this is another project. Maybe this is also interesting. Maybe this is the last one I will show you, because that is another way of innovating. And this was in Portugal. You know that the cork industry in Portugal is a very important industry, or at least it was a very important industry. Let's say you see also that, let's say, this industry has a problem nowadays, because for many years they lived off these cork stoppers. But well, the cork stoppers are for an important part are changed by other kind of stoppers. And so, what can you do for this industry? And a PhD student, Anna, she started this project, and it was, well, she could choose or going into to work together with the companies to see how you, together with the company, can come up with new ideas. But she did it in a different way. She invited designers and by giving them workshops about the material, giving them lots of information. She made a kind of contest of it and asked the designers within 3 months, Portuguese designers, to develop products. She did the same in the Netherlands, so she gathered, with my help, a number of designers and with the same question. And then, okay, they came up with all kinds of new ideas for products made of cork. And let's say some of these ideas are now also in production. The only thing is, and that is maybe the critics you can have on that way of innovating, is that it is, let's say, maybe too separated from the companies itself. They don't feel directly responsible for what's going on there. Of course, they like to this kind of new products, but before they are also aware within the company that they can do something different and that they have to develop a new vision. That was not the direct result of this project. But again, it is another way of innovating. Well, just to maybe as the last one to show, to show just again one of our projects. I have to say that in Delft we have a faculty of industrial design engineering. We have about 2,200 students only in industrial design engineering. It means that we have every year we have 350 new students who are going to do industrial design. And we have a bachelor master structure where all the bachelors, all the undergraduates also do the master. So per year we have 250 graduation projects also, and they all go into companies to do their project. So you can imagine with 250 graduation projects, you also have to find, well, at least about 200 companies. And the companies are very keen on getting a student because they know that something comes out. And we had made, let's say, kind of agreements with the design world just because we were kind of competitors, as they saw. But let's say, in the end, it is not. We are not competitors. We actually show, especially the small and medium-sized companies, what design can do for the company, so that, let's say, they are later on more willing to hire designers and design studios. So this was a project for the company called ULBRA. And ULBRA makes this kind of playground things for children. And let's say I already had done another project with them, and now they came with a question to design something new. One of my students started there, and again he did an analysis of what would be the best thing to do, and he focused on the sports games and also on, let's say, the user group who are kids. And kids in the Netherlands become too fat. Maybe it's not only in the Netherlands. I'm afraid it is a typical worldwide problem. I read this week that I think the Mexicans are the most fat people in the world, but I'm not sure about that. So he it's a bit dark, but okay. So he decided to design a goal, you know, a goal where you can hit with a ball, and let's say it is an electronic board as such. Because as soon as you hit it, let's say you can, well, if you hit in the right upper corner, you get more points than. But you can play all kind of games. So a voice tells you what game will be played, and then let's say you can, game one, for example, you can play a reaction speed game, hit the wall before the numerator is on 0. Well, it is now, let's say, it's not well, because there are numbers in that. You can play a tactics game, you can play a speed game, and also a kind of targeting, as I said before. Well, this is another one, sorry. Again, and it is, let's say, it was meant for, let's say, kids who play outside. You can ask a municipality to play these things in a park or whatever. But finally, it also turned out that football teams, football clubs, were very interested in this project, and finally also bought this kind of equipment. Other case was this, but I can go on and on. This was for Unilever, where this photograph was made by the student who did this project, because she wanted to express the new, you know, the new context in which we live. But the assignment was to design sustainable packaging for premium margarine of Unilever. But not only to design the packaging, but also to develop a strategy for how to put this new margarine in the market. So she analyzed the food packaging in general, the trends in packaging, the target group again. It was meant, you know, this margarine was something between margarine and real butter, and that could be interesting, especially for this young group. A mood board she made for that, you know, on basis of the user analysis. So then she developed something in glass, which was quite new because most of it is in plastic. And also made drawings. Well, this is just to show that, let's say, our designers are also quite well skilled to do this kind of engineering work and to know something about materials, which is very important, I think. And finally, she also said something about, there was the second part was, of course, the machinery, how to not only produce this kind of glass things, but also how to stack and palletize this kind of things. So she also developed therefore equipment. And finally, also she did something about the marketing, about the strategy, how to sell it, and you can do it in several ways. Also in the different locations, like the kind of stores you do it, the price, the promotion, and also how to do it in a graphical way, and other channels. Okay, so this is no, okay. I think I stop here. Right?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much for your attention.
Agradeço em nome da Universidade de ULBRA a presença de todos vocês, especialmente o professor Henri, o professor Mauro, o professor Eduardo, meu amigo Júlio Vanderlei, que se ali tirou uma foto no Facebook, o professor Maurício, que eu tive a oportunidade de conhecer há pouco tempo. Iniciamos este debate, conforme o professor Maurício também já colocou, que esperamos um excelente nível. Todas as perguntas podem ser direcionadas para o professor Júlio, que é aquele senhor simpático que vocês veem dentro do corredor, o nosso fotógrafo, e o professor Maurício da mesma forma. Também agradecer a presença do Mário Soares, nosso grande parceiro da instituição. Professores Mauro e senhor Eduardo, a palavra também está com vocês. Algum questionamento do professor Henri? E assim podemos prosseguir com as questões. Ok, Maurício, qualquer coisa que intervém. Maurício, eu tive confidenciado um pouco antes do evento para eu ser uma mistura de Hebe Camargo, Zeca Camargo e talvez outros apresentadores. Tentarei ser na medida do possível.
Boa noite a todos. Satisfação estar presente aí. Muito agradeço o convite. Parabéns pelo evento, pela iniciativa. Parabéns ao professor Henri pela excelente apresentação. Não só muito interessante, como especialmente inspiradora também. Como é que a gente pode tornar nossos negócios, nossas empresas, nossa carreira mais inovadora. Particularmente chamou bastante atenção a questão de que emoção, a questão de que sentimento é sim importante, mas compartilho com o professor Henri que realmente esse não é o ponto de partida para uma estratégia de inovação, para uma estratégia de design. Compartilho da crença de que isso tem que vir muito mais da visão, dos valores, das crenças de uma empresa do que efetivamente do momento da emoção e da inspiração ou da criatividade momentânea. Então, sem dúvida alguma, isso é algo que não se cria de uma hora para outra. Isso é algo que tem que ser desenvolvido, tem que ser criada uma cultura de inovação, a tal ponto que depois essa visão, essa crença se transforme também na estratégia de inovação, de design, assim como nós podemos visualizar. Então, tanto que realmente é um caminho de longo prazo, não é uma solução para uma crise muitas vezes. Quando o segmento, o setor, uma empresa está em crise, sair atrás da inovação como salvadora do momento, sim como um investimento de longo prazo, trabalhando para desenvolver essa cultura como um todo. Nós também vimos que na apresentação que, logicamente, uma empresa pequena, ela muitas vezes ela é inovadora até por necessidade. Ela realmente tem que criar os seus próprios caminhos, tem que achar sua própria solução, e isso desafia a ser mais inovador. À medida que essa empresa cresce, ela se torna muitas vezes mais organizada, mais estruturada, poderíamos dizer mais profissionalizada, mas o que muitas vezes termina virando em processos, normas, ferramentas que terminam muitas vezes engessando a empresa ou tornando ela menos flexível, e assim pode causar um desafio de se tornar menos inovador. Então, minha pergunta para o professor Henri é como que uma empresa consegue crescer, ser mais complexa, ser mais ampla e ao mesmo tempo não perder a inovação realmente como uma parte da sua cultura.
Thank you for your nice words you made. I hear it in Portuguese. Okay, so again, you repeated some things which were inspiring for you. Your question, I would love if I have the answer to you, because if I could have this answer, I would be rich and famous and I'm not sitting here anymore. How can a company grow, you say? I didn't understand completely about the complexity you were talking about, but
basically how it can be on the same time organized, structured in a formal way, but without losing the principle of the strategy and the mentality of the company.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's say that is a good question, because indeed, if you are going to grow and you are going to structure and to organize your company in a way that, let's say, everything is going as efficient as possible, that is at the same time it's a danger for your creativity, for your innovative behavior. But let's say, I think that the reason why I also stress that the designer has a role to play in innovation, I think that a designer as such is not so much influenced, or shouldn't be so much influenced by the, let's say, the bureaucratic, organizational, structural aspects within a company. He or she is just a free thinker in the company, and I think that is also, that makes that role for the designer so important, but and challenging, but also very responsible. And I think that, let's say, a number of companies has shown that can work. But let's say it also depends, of course, on the designer. And when I say designer, it can also be a team of designers. Well, let's say the problem is that because especially when a company is small, they cannot have their own designers. It's too expensive. So they hire a studio or whatever to do that. And that is not working so well, especially on this highest step of the ladder, where you say, okay, the designer should also play a role in innovation. Because then it stays like the example of the cork, where the designer, when he stays or she stays out of the company, that there is no, let's say, no good kind of integration of these aspects. Okay?
Só lembrando, antes de passar a palavra para o professor Mauro, as perguntas podem ser direcionadas para o professor Maurício e para o professor Vanderlei.
Obrigado, professor Vanderlei. Professor Henri, o senhor falou muito bem e foi bastante claro sobre o que as empresas devem fazer para se tornarem competitivas. Então, como representante da academia, eu acho interessante também nós falarmos sobre como a universidade deve preparar os seus alunos para atender essas demandas que muitas vezes as próprias empresas, como o senhor falou, não estão preparadas, ou não conseguem enxergar, estão no primeiro degrau. Então, como a universidade deve preparar esse aluno para ser um profissional que deverá lidar e saber lidar com o conhecimento multidisciplinar, entendendo e atendendo às diversas necessidades competitivas das empresas, fazendo com que os seus produtos sejam consumidos pelas pessoas. Então eu gostaria que o senhor fizesse um paralelo, traçasse um paralelo com o que se ensina e como se ensina na universidade, o que se faz E aí como se faz efetivamente, ou como se deve fazer efetivamente nas empresas, como esse aluno deve atuar nas empresas, para atender talvez as necessidades dos empresários, dos donos das empresas.
Thank you for this very interesting question and very important also for the collaboration between academia and industry. I think that, well, my answer would be that you can do that in two ways. And the two are absolutely necessary. You cannot leave the one without the other, etc. And the first one, let me start with the teachers. I think that, let's say, the teachers should at least have the attitude and also the experience to understand what it means to work in a company, what it means to be innovative in a company. That can partly because by their own kind of experience working in companies, but also by research projects. We have done, or we still do, quite a lot of projects. One, I also had some slides that didn't show it anymore, but it was a project in Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam, where, let's say, we are supporting 250 companies in, let's say, to innovate. Well, you can, of course, it is on their level, and let's say to bring them a step further is still not the level we have here in Brazil. But at least, let's say, it shows that in that kind of projects also the professors are involved and understand what it means to create awareness among companies, and they can translate that to their students. That is one. Second is that we already in the undergraduate phase we invite and involve companies to, let's say, to give assignments for students in the graduation project of the undergraduate project of the bachelor. Let's say companies are directly involved in let's say the project, their final project, and that is the way they learn. I mean, well, you only find companies who are already kind of on a certain level of innovation, and that is how, let's say, you can prepare students for their future role and also to understand what it means. Yeah. And that goes on. I mean, then in the master, let's say almost all projects has a link to industry, and industry also sponsors some of the projects.
Deve na verdade haver uma relação muito próxima, uma aproximação muito grande entre as empresas, a indústria e a universidade. Uma parceria, uma troca de informações entre elas.
Yeah, indeed, let's say, it is also very motivating, I think, for students. Let's say I was this afternoon I was a guest at the Betadine company. I looked around and saw the factory I saw, and it is so motivating and so interesting to see. So let's say it is not only that we are helping industry. The industry helps also the academia, the universities, and the students to understand it, to be motivated. Why I am doing this, why I'm studying engineering, or why I'm studying design, or whatever I'm thinking. So we need each other. It is a win-win situation, I think.
Temos então duas perguntas aqui da plateia. I'm sorry. Considerando que a inovação está totalmente ligada ao mercado, o senhor acredita que a inovação está atrelada a seu potencial de laboratórios e investimentos em infraestrutura ou em conhecer seu cliente e agregar valor em colaboração?
When the question is about labs in industry or in the university? Yeah. Let me think about it for a moment, because it is not easy to. Well, when we talk about let's say design and innovation, and you cannot say, okay, let's give our attention only to the user aspect, or let's give us the attention to the labs and to look for example, material research or research into materials, or only into the business aspect or marketing aspect. I think you cannot see the one aspect separate from the other. That is the power of designing, I think, or it should, at least it should be, that we give attention to all these three aspects, because you cannot make them, you cannot separate them. So I don't know if this is an answer to the question, but as I say, I mean, all the aspects are important, and unfortunately, in many companies, the designer is only involved in one of these aspects and not in the other, because, let's say, they are separated from the research and development, or they are separated from the engineering part, or they are separated from the marketing part. But let's say again, it is the mediator, I would say, the designer, and it does mean that education, our schools should educate our designers in that way. I mean, it is necessary that they have to know something about, for example, materials. They have to know something about marketing. They have to know something about innovation management, apart from, let's say, the design.
Okay, thank you. Another question. I will talk in Portuguese. Okay. Que barreiras foram superadas na Holanda para chegar a abrir espaço? Que barreiras foram superadas na Holanda para abrir esse mercado efetivo para o design nas empresas e como?
Where should I start? That's a long story, of course, because as you can understand, we exist. For example, our Faculty of Industrial Design Engineering exists since 1969. And it took a lot of time, I can tell you, it took a lot of time to create awareness in industry about our existence, and especially about what we could and what we could not. I mean, at that time, industry was also thinking of designers as kind of, okay, they make the things beautiful. I think it took at least 20 years to make ourselves known in industry. You also saw it, for example, in let's say efforts for employees. Let's say design didn't appear for 20 years in the newspaper because nobody knew what it was. Let's say my answer is actually it is a very gradual process. I mean, you cannot say, okay, it was the key point where of the turning point where the industry suddenly saw the light. No, it was a very gradual process, until, let's say, also our graduates came into the market, started their studios, and became a bit more known by their activities.
Eduardo, uma questão colocada também pelos nossos colegas, como essa questão poderia ser respondida aqui no Brasil, de acordo com a tua experiência?
Especificamente sobre essa... Olha, na verdade, em primeiro lugar, concordo com o professor Henri, tem que ser um trabalho multidisciplinar. Nós não podemos escolher um único tema, investir só em laboratório, só em tecnologia, ou investir só no conhecimento do cliente. Não tem um ou outro, né? Necessariamente, para ter esse desenvolvimento, tem que ter um trabalho conjunto, olhando toda essa interdisciplina. Acho que tem muito a ver com essa questão da estratégia que nós falamos antes, a questão do vídeo apresentado, de entender o why, né? Por que realmente nós fizemos dessa forma. Às vezes é mais difícil a gente escolher a pergunta certa do que a resposta. No momento que a gente sabe qual é a pergunta certa, as respostas ficam mais fáceis. Eu acho que o papel está muito por aí, de não ficar simplesmente nas questões mais superficiais do design, e realmente tentar responder essa pergunta, né? No que eu realmente posso ser diferente, no que eu realmente acredito, no que eu vou trabalhar por uma causa e não simplesmente por um produto ou por uma solução do design. No momento que consegue chegar nesse ponto e realmente responder essa pergunta, os resultados vão começar a vir de forma muito mais natural, inclusive, né? Enquanto a gente fica procurando o produto perfeito, a forma perfeita, a estética perfeita, nós não estamos investindo tempo em tentar entender para que nós existimos quanto empresa, quanto profissional. Então eu diria que a resposta está muito por aí. A gente se preocupar às vezes menos com o produto final ou com a solução final e se preocupar muito mais com o que a gente está tentando multiplicar, o que a gente quer levar para o consumidor, para o mercado. Acho que esse seria talvez o maior desafio aí de realmente a gente conseguir atingir esse objetivo.
Professor Henri, os princípios do design aplicados para reestruturar uma empresa podem ser os mesmos para nortear um setor industrial inteiro?
Well, let me say that we until now we are talking about individual designers or groups of designers, design studios working for individual companies, etc., with let's say competition and so on and so forth. So there is no real movement of designers. Well, there are kind of design organizations also in I suppose here, but also in Portugal or in the Netherlands. But they are not really trying, like say, to change a whole kind of sector or a whole kind of branch or whatever. Although I think it is an interesting option. I would say that could be, but then maybe we should find the way to do it. I mean, how can we? Of course, you can give your interviews on TV or whatever, but that's maybe not helping so much. The problem is actually that when you look at the sector, then there is competition within the sector. So of course you can try to change the whole sector, but that can only be done in general ways, because as soon as the companies are not so willing to open their doors and to let the competition look at you, etc. So at least it is an interesting option, but I have no answer yet how to do that.
Gostaria de aproveitar o gancho aí para fazer uma pergunta em relação a isso. Não posso deixar de fazer a pergunta e a provocação. Nós estamos aqui em Novo Hamburgo, no Vale dos Sinos, um dos principais clusters da indústria de calçados a nível mundial. A indústria de calçados, logicamente, tem muito a ver com design. A parte fundamental é exatamente do sucesso dessa indústria. Então, a minha pergunta é o quanto a questão das empresas, da academia estarem em um setor muito forte, muito reconhecido como esse, quanto isso é importante versus a questão de estar num ambiente mais multissetorial, mais multicultural, para para florescer a inovação e o design. E quais seriam as vantagens e os riscos, efetivamente, de estar numa região que tem uma importância tão grande de uma indústria reconhecida a nível mundial?
Sorry, but the translator missed part of your question, so I don't know the question. Can you repeat it in English?
No problem. So,
Okay.
basically, my question is: as we are in a region where the footwear industry is really very relevant for the region, how much of this could be really being an advantage in terms of developing innovation and design, and how much it can be a restriction of being very strongly or very deeply involved in one industry?
I try to find out whether I understand the question. Just, are you talking about the regional aspect, or?
Yeah, but the question is much more related. Is how important it is to be in a multi-sectorial region or environmental, instead of being a very much focused region or industry. So on one side you can be very good in doing what you do, but on the other hand probably you start to have some blocks in thinking in a different way, because you are living in one environment that is very much dedicated for that industry and that behavior and that belief.
Okay. So actually you say, I mean, if you are within a certain sector, like the shoe industry, you have a kind of maybe such a kind of narrow
paradigm or something.
That you should learn something from others, or let's say.
That's my point.
Okay. Yes and no. I think that, let's say.
Like the economist people say.
No, on the one hand, let's say I don't think that. Well, the problem of narrow view, you can solve that yourself within your sector. I think. I mean, let's say it's not necessary to go to other sectors or whatever, because as I would suggest is that your team, the team you work with, should be let's say educated. I so said that earlier on. Make your designers or whatever, make them learn. I mean, so you should be a learning company, and that holds for everyone. So if you are really blocked by the fact that you work only in that aspect, I think you are going to lose. You are going to lose market, and you are not, let's say, if you're not able to change. That is your problem, and not the problem of that you should also look at other others. That is the no. The yes is that, of course. I mean, it is always good and also interesting as we sit here together. That is a discussion. You should do that kind of things in workshops. On Wednesday, I have a workshop with several companies. I think that can be very relevant. To learn from each other and to see what's going on in other sectors, etc. But again, that is a kind of a matter of learning and the willingness to learn and the awareness to learn as a company, or from within your sector, or let's say, or to look at the outside world.
Ok, teremos mais uma pergunta apenas, dado o jantar da hora. Desde já convido a todos para a próxima sexta-feira, na ULBRA Tech, onde ocorrerá uma palestra do professor Henri. Todas as perguntas podem ser direcionadas, convidamos todos.
9 horas.
Às 9 horas, prédio 17 da ULBRA. Eu não sei se poderia estar convidando, eu já estou convidando, mas imagino que todos podem inscrever-se no site. One more question, I read in English, okay? your speech, you stress the social responsibility that companies, industries, and the designers must be aware of. Considering the global problems that mass consumption brings, such as poverty, hunger, violence, environmental issues, etc., how to balance design and innovation, how to prepare students for social innovation through design, and thank you for your speech.
It's a very nice and a very relevant question again, and I think that all companies are struggling with that, and even academia are struggling with that, because on the one hand, let's say we companies and universities feel the necessity of let's say of this kind of responsibility, social responsibility regarding also sustainability and that kind of issue. So let's say it is now, especially now, I think, and especially in Europe where we have this crisis, it is coming up more and more that we say, okay, why should we produce all the time more and more? How can we do it in another way? How can we change, let's say, our way of production, or our way of vision on the economy in such a way that companies are still making profit on the one hand, but let's say in a completely other way than we are doing now, by also showing sustainability as a responsibility for the social issues and sustainability issues. I have no answer with it, but let's say I think that in the near future we are going to discuss this more and more in society, in politics, etc. I don't think that, well, that politics can solve that problem, but at least they will see also that it is an important issue. Well, and of course, I mean, there are many companies already who have this kind of agreement or whatever about social responsibility issues, etc., etc. So I think that we will find ways, and we have to find ways also, because well, our resources are somewhere ending, and we also want to have a good life for our children. So I think it will happen, but I think that, let's say, it needs a kind of thinking power to come up with solutions for that.
Thank you very much. Ensinamos? Claro.
Bom, antes do encerramento formal, eu gostaria de agradecer mais uma vez ao professor Henri, ao Eduardo Kunz da escola. Muito nos honra também a sua presença, Eduardo. Espero que esse seja o começo de uma boa relação com o projeto, né? Também ao Mauro Martin, como você me falou no telefone, pela sua ajuda e sua contribuição também. Berlang, sei que você queria de férias, né? Então é de férias realmente para o projeto. Né? Então, muito mesmo obrigado.
Agradeço e faço então o encerramento. Uma boa noite a todos. Thank you, professor Henri. Thank you. Obrigado, Eduardo. Obrigado, Mauro. Obrigado a todos os professores que cá estão. Foi uma honra tê-los em nossa universidade. Boa noite.